4 years ago, I put forth an amendment to the platform committee that Bernie had nominated me to say that as a party we should stand for getting money entirely out of politics. Didn't go well. In fact, they had a corporate lobbyist was the first person to speak against my amendment, which at the time I thought was hilarious and was probably some sort of terrible mistake, right? Well, I then this time around, Bernie nominated me to the Rules Committee, and I put forth an amendment to say that the DNC should reject corporate PAC money and ban lobbyists from serving on the DNC.
We now move to proposal number 7. The proposed charter amendment to reject PAC money and banning corporate lobbyists from serving on the DNC. I will now recognize Brent Welder to offer proposal number 7.
Hello and thank you. Again, my name is Brent Welder. I'm from Kansas. We need to neutralize corporate influence first within our party that is preventing us from living up to our platform, our ideals, and being a true party of the people. The party of the people cannot put profits ahead of people and remain the party of the people. People are taking to the streets in this country because they do not believe that they have a voice in our democracy. We stand for healthcare for all, common sense gun reform, and clean air and water that also battles catastrophic climate change. And we stand for these things even if it takes us speaking truth to corporate power and rejecting the money and the lobbyists from our platform and rulemaking process. And for those reasons, I strongly urge you to vote yes on this amendment. Thank you. And what do you know? The first person they found to speak against it was a corporate lobbyist. And the way that I know is because he talked about it during his speech. So
I come at this with some experience in that I've been a lobbyist for many do-gooder groups over my career, and occasionally a lobbyist for for-profit corporations also. I don't think this is the place to be getting into these kinds of detailed work when we have a DNC commission that has been working for 18 months and will be coming back with recommendations on these kinds of issues. The issue here is not really whether we should be making a blanket rejection of certain campaign monies or restricting the eligibility rights of DNC membership. The states and the candidates, I think, do a pretty good job of making decisions there. But if that is the will of the party, let it be determined by a normal, thorough study and examination by the party. The convention week, or here the convention month, is really the time to pull together to make sure that we have the best unified effort going forward to elect our next president. And these kinds of proposals, I think, are best deferred for that study by a commission, which will happen. So for that reason, I do not support this proposal.
I don't know whether they just literally cannot find somebody that's not a corporate lobbyist on these committees to speak against it. I don't know whether they think that's some kind of good messaging for them. But then they used corrupt tactics and rigged voting to try to sink my anti-corruption amendment so that there was no record of the vote. So it's...
So they wanted to show and not tell.
Exactly.
Or actually not show the corruption, but not show what actually happened. So yeah, can you explain that a little bit more?
Of course.
Break that down, yeah.
So, I ran for Congress in 2018 here in Kansas, and I was actually the one that came up with the no corporate PAC money pledge that everybody has heard so much about from probably hundreds, if not thousands of candidates at all levels of government. It's a big issue for me, something I've been an activist on for a long time. And so when Bernie nominated me to the Rules Committee for the DNC this time, I wanted to continue to try to root corruption out of the DNC, which there's a lot of it to root out. And and this meeting, they used the COVID-19 tragedy for their own political gain in a way to make the meetings even more rigged and scripted than they ever have been before. So much so that those of us on the committee weren't even able technologically to talk to the chairman of the committee because they stuck all of us in this separate room. And the only way they would even turn your mic on to talk to the chairman or to go over the live stream was if they, you know, graced you with the ability, if you were literally in the script that was already scripted out beforehand, right? Well, so then and through all these other heavy-handed tactics, they got all the progressives to, you know, withdraw a whole bunch of amendments, all this kind of stuff. So they were just going one by one. You know, a Bernie person would put up an amendment, they'd vote it down, they'd move on to the next one. There'd be a new amendment, they'd vote it down, they'd move on to the next one. Well, I had been contacted by kind of an intermediary from the Biden campaign before the meeting saying that the Biden campaign was particularly pissed off about my particular amendments to stop corporate PAC money and ban corporate lobbyists. I was asked to, you know, withdraw them. I politely declined to do so. And when they got to my amendment, I expected them to do what they had done to the others. Let me present it, let me give my speech, vote it down, move on to the next one. However, what they did was I did my speech, they opened up voting. So I went over to the voting machine or voting device that they give us, which had been working perfectly fine throughout the entire meeting. Of course, I wanted to vote yes on my own amendment. What do you know? It wasn't working. Kept checking back as this lobbyist is droning on. I'm checking back. It's not working. It's not working. At the time, I just thought, well, maybe it really is just some kind of technical error. All of a sudden, the lobbyist makes a motion to table my amendment, which, you know, I'm no parliamentary procedure expert. I really didn't exactly know what the ramifications of that would be. Are they tabling it till like next convention 4 years from now? What on earth is this? Well, but luckily they had, and then all of a sudden they start voting on this tabling motion in the middle of what was supposed to be the vote on my amendment, which I'm not sure that that's even proper. However, they accidentally left my microphone on for the live stream. And so I was able to immediately start protesting that and saying,
I have a point of order or clarification here. Tabling until when?
Immediately after I did that, Barney Frank, who's the chairman, who's on the board of a big bank, he explained that, you know, tabling means that if there is no successful motion to untable at any point, it's going to die with the committee, which was going to be 15 minutes later.
I mean, after the committee expires, if no one is moved to take it off the table successfully, then it dies with the committee.
Gotcha. Wow, that doesn't make any sense at all, it seems. But I guess people should vote however their conscience tells them.
That's my.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying you didn't accurately say that. It just seems to me that that's an absurd thing to do to table this. We might as well vote yes or no on it.
Then they immediately shoved me back in this room. They realized their mistake. They left my microphone on. I get into the room with all the Biden and Bernie, you know, the virtual room with all the Biden and Bernie committee people, and the 50 Bernie members are going berserk. Talk about how unfair it is, trying to call for a motion to untable it, although obviously it's falling on literally deaf ears because they can't hear them. And there was so much pushback, and it was just sustained at that point forward for the next like 10 minutes as they continued to try to do the business of the committee, that ultimately at the end, first the chairperson said they were going to end the meeting, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, wait, we actually, I guess they got enough pressure that they decided to have a vote to untable it. That miraculously won for one reason or another. I think literally because the Biden committee members knew how corrupt and terrible it looked. But then ultimately, of course, they voted down my amendment.
Yeah. Now we're going to vote on the underlying amendment, proposal number 7.
So the vote now takes place as if there had been no motion to table, and you are back on the merits of the proposal, yes or no.
So that's how that all played out.
And the proposal does not pass.
That's kind of the perfect metaphor, right? They give you like the illusion of democracy or fairness, just like on something this big. And then ultimately, though, they deprive you of it.